So what are the 12 steps of 12-step programs? So this includes AA, CA, which is Cocaine Anonymous, and Narcotics Anonymous. The steps are the same, just the choice of words are different. So step 1, we admitted we were powerless over alcohol or our drug of abuse, and our lives had become unmanageable. So to me, this means that life gets out of control, and my drug use or alcohol use came to the point where it started interfering with my daily life. Things like sleeping in, missing work, missing school, having hangovers, those sort of things. So that's the unmanageability. Step 2, came to believe that a power greater than myself could restore me to sanity. This step is one that a lot of people have difficulties with. However, it can be really simple. The 12 steps are not saying it needs to be God. It just means that there's something out there larger than me, than myself, perhaps on a spiritual level, that helps to keep me on the straight and narrow. Step 3, made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood Him. And to me, I look at that as surrender. For me, my higher power is not God, but the higher power is us as people. But I think it's the surrendering, saying, I give up, I need help. That's what step 3 means to me. Step 4 and step 5 tend to go together. Made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. That's step 4. And step 5 is admitted to God, ourselves, and another human being the exact nature of our wrongs. So these 2 steps made a big difference for me. It's a big part of my recovery, because I looked inwards, introspection, to see like, where are my weaknesses? Like in the height of my addiction, there's a lot of damage I created, and a lot of loneliness and isolation. And so this step is to identify where have I gone wrong and how can I improve it. This step also suggests that it's important to share it with another person. Being healthy in recovery is connection with other people. The contrary is in addiction is to be isolated, which is obviously not a good thing. So sharing about my problems with another human being, whether it's a close friend, a loved one, or my sponsor, any of those work. Step 6, we're entirely ready to have God remove all these defects of character. So this is related again to 4 and 5, but that's letting go, surrendering. Step 7, humbly asked Him to remove our shortcomings, again asking for help. Step 8 and 9 tend to go together. Made a list of all persons we had harmed and became willing to make amends to them all. And number 9, made direct amends to people wherever possible, except when to do so would injure them or cause harm to others. So again, steps 8 and 9 are really important to look at the path of destruction that I created, the people that I hurt, and apologize. And try to not just apologize. Making amends is not just saying sorry. It's also to change my ways, to let them know what I would do differently had the same circumstances arisen. This is a very important one, to try to allow healing to occur. There are limits, however. Sometimes if a person has moved on in their life and they don't want to hear about it anymore, and if that's the case, then I have to respect that. I could at least write it down what I would want to say to them, and put that envelope somewhere safe keeping. Maybe there would be another day where they'd be open to accept it. So steps 8 and 9 are really important for part of my recovery. Step 10, continue to take personal inventory, and when we were wrong, promptly admitted it. So this again goes to steps 4 and 5, where I'm identifying what are my weaknesses, what are my character defects. Step 11, which is a really cool one, sought through prayer and meditation, and I would add mindfulness, to improve our conscious contact with God as we understood Him, praying only for knowledge of His will for us and the power to carry that out. The end of that step I don't quite connect to, but what I think is important is I'm not alone in this world, and I know that when I'm scared shitless, I would pray, even though I don't consider myself to be a religious person, although I am spiritual. But when I'm scared, yeah, when I sat there in the prisoner's box in my orange coveralls and handcuffs, and I didn't know what my future was going to be, well, guess what? I was praying. Praying for me does help. It seems to take some pressure off for some reason. It's just letting myself be spiritual, and there's something good about that. Meditation, again, life is full of stress, and it can happen everywhere. I mean, in the grocery store lineup to being on the roads, driving on city roads, very stressful. But removing myself from the situation and just taking some deep breaths in. It could be as simple as that. Or if I have to wait in line somewhere, or if I was waiting in a jail cell for something, just taking some deep breaths in and concentrating on anything or nothing. For me, meditation was just a place I went in my mind, the back of my mind, to just breathe deep, relax, and this was counter to all the stresses that's going on in my life. So it was an escape mechanism, and this time it's a healthy one, as opposed to drug use. I said mindfulness as well, and that's something that I've learned in recovery. That's not in the 12 steps, but it's more of a newer teaching, and that's to be aware of my surroundings directly around me, to listen better to what people are saying, use my ears. That's something that I find my listening skills really were crappy up until my recovery. I find that's a generalized phenomenon across society. We're not good listeners, but practice listening. Mindfulness also is being aware of my own feelings, my own emotions. It's also could be looked at as cognitive behavioral therapy, which is a big word for saying being aware of my own thoughts. So mindfulness is an important one, and I would tack that on to step 11. Finally, step 12. Having had a spiritual awakening as the result of these steps, we tried to carry this message to alcoholics and users, and to practice these principles in all our affairs. So another super important one is, and it means to just change my way of life, to do what I think is the best thing, to try to make good decisions, to think about things before I make impulsive decisions, and also to speak to others who are going through a tough time, to let them know they're not alone. There's other people out there who care, who've been through the tough times, and to let them know that there's others. There's hope for them, and they're not alone.